Yes, here we are. We are back. Sat Shri Akal to everyone. 𝕍𝕔 ka Khalsa very very good. Well, morning here in India and buona serata Italia.
Sat Sri Akal.
Sat Shri Akal, Amar, how are you? I know it's
I'm
late.
good.
It's fun.
Yeah,
It's our first time together, like live streaming, isn't it?
yeah.
It's we've been actually conspiring so much, and you've been my sort of ping pong thing. I always chat with you about what to do this and how to do that. But
A
I'm
little bit.
glad that we could. So people, me and him were just chatting, right? We were just talking about a couple of stuff, a couple of things, and I thought, well, why don't uh, why don't we get together? So here we are. So Amar, um, ਕੀ ਹਾਲ ਚਾਲ ਹੈ?
All good. Can't.
ਘੈਂਟ ਹੈ? ਠੀਕ ਹੈ।
Uh,
ਆਹੋ। ਤੇਰੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਕੋਈ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤੇਰੇ ਟੂਰਿੰਗ 'ਚ ਬੈਠਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਕੋਈ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਤੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਬੋਲਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ, ਤੂੰ ਇਟਾਲੀਅਨ ਬੋਲ ਬੋਲ ਕੇ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਬੋਲ ਬੋਲ ਕੇ ਤੂੰ ਸਮਾਂ ਗੁਜ਼ਾਰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਇਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ?
Hanji. Hanji, Hanji.
ਤੇ but I'm so glad you're going to be coming home for for a short vacation.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. The how do you see? I mean, we were talking about about how, what a sad loss of opportunity for Donald Trump. That he had the world at his feet, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
He had. I mean, it's like what I was telling you that when we your pops an ex-aviator, so design, and as an 8-year-old, as you know, you're doing automobile engineering. I was into aviation, but I was thinking about that we need our own satellite, and blah. We have to say, oh, are we gonna 𝕑𝕆 in Bangalore? We'll make our own missiles and satellites in Chandigarh. I was like a born, bred, and irretrievably spoiled felon of Chandigarh. So
Mm-hmm.
the idea that when you are shooting across, fighting, the gravity leaving the Earth below, you require rocket boosters, right? Very
Yeah.
venomous and very harsh and arrogant and angry rocket boosters to take you away. The parting is very painful and noisy. But once you're like
Yeah.
140, 50, 60, 200 kilometers up in the sky, it's time, or somewhere down there, you need to jettison the big, rocket that took you to that height. Then you
Yeah.
can't be sticky to it. You can't be emotional about it. You need to jettison that. You need to say, thank you very much, Mr. Rocket Booster. You brought me to this height. I'm so grateful. Now I'm free of gravity, and I'm going to now sky is the limit, or was the limit. Now I am in the sky, and I am the sky. Now I am the
Yeah.
limit. I'll set the limits. But this
Yeah.
guy just never understood that little thing, right? And he's like running around saying, oh, I'm going to start a space force. But he didn't have even this basic logic. And one thing that I liked, and which you were pointing towards, and I would want you to look at that, is that I said that the only thing I like about him is that he doesn't want to, well, he said an end to wars, right? American
Yeah.
intrusion. And what you were telling me about that, look, Syria is being bombed again. So I thought that technically, from those aspects, he was okay. He wants to care for his white-skinned folks. I'm okay with it. As a racial snob, I think I'm a Punjabi supremacist also, on a light note. So I don't mind. I mean, बुड़ के पंजाबी आप बुड़ को मारो चक दे फटे के दे ओ साढ़े अर्गा कोई है ही नहीं. And it's like everybody standing in front of a mirror. But now, of course, with Biden coming, it's like जैसे थे, like the administration. You're reminded of Afghanistan bombing. You're reminded of Yugoslavia. You're reminded of Iraq. The very, very. I mean, that's a crime against humanity. How more than half a
Yeah.
million kids. They're crying about half a million Americans dying, but that embargo during Saddam Hussein's time, more than half a million kids died of starvation or something. They had, I mean, of the malnourishment and all that. So those were, the issues, and there were within America there were calls to impeach George Bush or have an inquiry afterwards to look at some of the crimes against humanity, etc. But then, of course, politics, hypocrisy, and so on and so forth. But these guys wouldn't talk much about, let's say, the Chinese ill treatment of the Muslim, population, the illegal annexation of Tibet, for example, as the Tibetans say that we are an autonomous region. We are part of China, but we are autonomous, and so on and so forth. So there, because America doesn't venture where there is a strong opposition, it just goes for lesser mortals and tries to. How do you look at it? What do you think that? Am I right in thinking that Trump is he would be living in the world of regrets only? That kash main kar liya hunda, kash I wish I had done this, alas, maybe I could have done that. Is he going to be living forever now in the mandal of regrets? What's your
I don't
observation?
know. That would only be the case if he had those things in mind. If he had those objectives that, okay, I want to, for example, drastically decrease the military, the functionary industrial complex, which he did not do. I mean, he is, to give him credit, he is the only American president in the last 2 decades and a half, maybe 2 decades, that hasn't started a new war. So that is already a big thing. He did not really, there was no ceasefire, but he did not start anything new. So that is, as far as the trends go from president to president, that is one step, or let's say one bad step not taken.
But Yemen, he continued in a very murky fashion. He gave the munitions, the kind of contracts he was giving to the Saudis, which are now stopped. He was bypassing the Congress. But yes, I take your point that he did not start technically any new war. Yes,
he did not start anything else, but I don't think he would be living in regret, because I don't think he had those ideas, those goals in his mind in the first place. The only thing he would regret at this point would be losing the presidency, losing the election. And his campaign worked. I would say even his 2016 campaign was very well done because the people responded to it. But it was, he didn't really fail. He failed to, I think he failed to transition into president mode instead of rebel outsider mode. I would say I would call that the 2016 the candidacy. But he could have done. It was, I think, even if he was an okay president, he would have made it past winning the second election as well. I think the main thing which really was to his disadvantage was his handling of the pandemic. That was a really big issue, and I think that is what cost him the election. He could have, in the end, towards the end, in last few days of December, he championed the $2,000 check, instead of the $600 check. He could have done that before the election. That was a very, he would have had 80% or something of the people behind him for that specific policy, because it is a very supported policy right now in the United States, along with the $15 minimum wage. And he could have, if he ran as a true populist, which he claimed to have been, for the people, he would have considered those things, but he did not, for whatever reason, I do not know. Probably to appeal to the right, the economic and political right. But if he had, I think, implemented those two policies, it would have been an easy win over Biden because it was a very close margin after all of his catastrophes, which to me goes to show that the Democratic campaign was a complete tragedy, I would say, because even though Trump did so many things which weren't optimal, they could not really, focus on what to change and bring that into the campaign rather than just, I would say, just going on a personal level rather than on a strictly policy-based campaign, which eventually they did also for the state elections in Georgia and the other, I don't remember which other state it was, but they did run on the $2,000 checks. If you vote the Democrat candidate in, we will be able to give the $2,000 on day one. And when they got elected, they completely bailed on the people. Let's say it was a sleight of hand. And now similarly also with the $15 minimum wage. So these are all things that Trump could have implemented in his campaign, and he would have it would have been a much smoother victory, and I think a much bigger victory as compared to Biden's over Trump, as we did see.
By the way, you're not the only one in Europe up. Well, your �12, 𝕭𝕍 from London, she's now Britannia. They're not part of the European Union. I think she must have certainly voted for a Brexit. She didn't want anything to do with
other
you guys in Italy.
Issues over there.
We'll talk about that too. But she's there. You can say hello to her. 𝕭𝕍 from her. And of course, many other friends have joined as well. Greetings to everyone. Welcome to this early morning, late night, early morning here in India. Late night show. Late night with Bhai Baldeep Singh and Leonardo, Amar Singh. But the thing is that there's one thing which is common with both of us. We are both up. We are both yet to sleep. So ये नहीं मालूम कि तुम हम पे गए हो या हम तुम पे गए हैं, ये नहीं मालूम, और ना ही हमें मालूम करना है, ऐसे ठीक है. So I think it was an election for Trump to lose because it's unusual for an incumbent president to lose that. I think he was making several mistakes. But again, you said it early on in your comments that he just never understood what is it to be a president. Being a sycophant, he loved sycophants. He loved being pampered. He's a narcissistic idiot, I guess, and a narcissist and an idiot because of that. But I think he could have, I don't know why, because Republicans, especially the conservative gang within that, or the group, they're very fine people. There's some of the phenomenal lawyers and thinkers and political philosophers and so on and so forth. And, Nihal is a conservative, political philosophy student. So they're quite fine. I've got serious problems with their, their problems with their climate change, with abortion, with, LGBTQ rights. And look at this, another idiot, Marjorie, whatever Taylor, her name is, that QAnon, the Q pack or whatever, Trumplican or whatever they call her. Her Democrat colleague opposite her office has a transgender child. And this Marjorie, whatever her name, Taylor, she's putting up a thing that there's only, ask science, that there's only genders is male and a female. Such an idiot thing. There are transgenders. That's also
Yeah.
God made. If you, on one hand, you say, oh, we won't allow abortions, and then you're against transgender children and people, that's so stupid. I mean, is there a worse gutter to be, living in? How do you look at that kind of a thing coming up? I think, is America in in a shithole now? I mean, Trump was calling some African countries a shithole countries. I mean, that guy is a dealer in shitholes, in crap. I mean, he's a crap dealer.
Yeah.
What do you think of all of this? I mean, how do you guys see from Italy, and how do you guys weigh all of this going on? You had some of the, I mean, before you come in, some of the right wing, white supremacists, all that happening, a lot of it happening in Ukraine and others. There are these gangs which get to international syndicates, white supremacist gangs. They get together and train and plan. You've had some of these issues, anti-immigration and so on and so forth. We worry even for you
Yeah.
because you have a brown skin, unlike your elder brother, who's a blonde Sardar and a white skinned fellow. I have, you've seen me in Italy being called Saddam Hussein and Bin Laden and Mustafa, Ali Baba, Santo Khan, whatnot. I, could take it with a stride, but it becomes a nuisance over a period of time when, even for a joke, people are doing that. There's no education. But how do you see being America with the kind of political power it possesses, munitions kind of industry that it holds and commands, and the influence, nuclear weapons, WMDs, that is weapons of mass destruction, complete on anybody else to have it. How do you see this new turn of events where post KKK period, this new kind of conspiracy theories mongering fellows are all over the place now in the Republican Party?
I think it reflects the main thing I would say it reflects is the vulnerability of the average citizen to baseless ideas, to ideas which, or baseless affirmations. Ideas are ideas, it's fine. But one thing is an idea, the other thing is to believe an idea and believe it to be the truth. So one major thing that is lacking is just critical thinking, or basic, very rudimentary analysis of the facts surrounding whichever phenomenon you want to analyze, and then coming to a conclusion. So that process, that I would call it the scientific process, because it is a similar thing of being very factual and then on the basis of those facts coming to a decision. That is the thing that is lacking, I would say, in the general populace, which then reflects and gets amplified by the herd mentality that also surrounds the idea of becoming part of a group that believes in something. So there is a very dogmatic and religious also, I would say, aspect to these beliefs. That somebody says it and then, oh, it is like this, and if I might be wrong, but from what I have gathered about the whole conspiracy theory is that it's very it is tied to religion, so it's very Christian affiliated, but not really Christian affiliated, but they'll just like, very surface level Christian affiliated, I would say. Because it doesn't really take into account the philosophy that one can read into the book, or whichever, all of those stories, or the accounts that are present in and around that belief system. But it is tied to some sort of assumption which is not based in fact, and then there becomes a sense of community that gets involved, and then more people start to, the more a thing grows, the more it is vulnerable to become dangerous, in the sense that in the sense of volatility of ideas, because people might misinterpret something, people might think something else, and then they won't be.
Looking at, if you look at the religion idea, I mean, in India as well, in South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Burma, we see a kind of religious fundamentalism. It's been there for always, but we see that there are right wing is quite strong among the Sikhs, for example, can be very violent, can be very sort of supremacist, and have a very deep rooted subaltern tendency towards looking down upon everybody else and everything else. You see the Hindu right-wing elements. You see the wing within the left, if I may, alt-right within the alt-left. Look at the Islamic, right. You look at the Buddhist, right, for example, at times. You see the, the kind of, how is it? I mean, look at Christianity, look at, Jews and so on and so forth. Anything, I mean, religion is supposed to be an association with scriptures, right? With some philosophy or some revelation. It's that people who are clinging so dearly and tightly to some revelation, or one revelation or another, they're actually the most, lacking. They are the ones who are found most lacking compassion, for example, love for the doing of the doer. There's one doer, one doing, and yet they are caught up. How do you see religion because of that? I mean, in your views, does religion lose its stock, share value, or is it that all these different margas, different paths would somehow last longer than the idiots that sort of infest them and infect them?
I think it's not to do with religion itself. It is to do with one's approach to whichever idea. So I could take a scientific idea and treat it religiously and say, this is how it is, and it is only like this, and it cannot be any other way. And I believe firmly, and I know this to be the truth, that this is how it is, and nobody else has any authority on this or anything to do with this other than me. So that approach to any idea, I would say, is problematic. So when it comes to religion and a sense of identity, I think there it becomes even more difficult to deal with, because one identifies with a group, with a certain ideology, and then if I like a pair, I'll give a very stupid example, which is, if I like a pair of pants, if I really like a pair of pants, and I think these are the best pants that I can wear, and somebody asks me, but are these really the best pants that there are? I would be more, if my identity, which is based off of wearing those pants and saying, oh, I'm the guy who wears these blue pants and they're the best pants there are, my identity would come into question. And so that would be a crisis for me personally. And I would have to change my ways, my individual ways, not only just thinking about an idea. So I think people become much more confrontational than they would be otherwise regarding an idea to which, with respect to, no, an idea to which they aren't as attached. So if I have a favorite toy and somebody wants to play with it, as a child, I would not want to let them play with it because it's my toy. But the inclusive or the secular approach would be, okay, I really appreciate this toy. You can appreciate it too. And that toy would be, in the religious sense, I think, a sensation of reality.
And now to look at the idea of Brexit. How do Italians and you guys in Europe are looking at this whole divorce between United Kingdom and Europe?
I'm not very informed on Brexit, but I have heard that the consequences over there are much worse than the consequences over here. I heard about some prices of imported goods being skyrocketed high, and also things which one would consume on a daily basis. Many food products, if one wants to buy a packet of pasta, it would be much more expensive. And it was just from one day to the next that this happened. Also from when it comes to shipping to and from. So if I'm here, I will have to pay much more for shipping a package from the UK to Europe.
Yeah. But otherwise, those are few. But you don't.
Those
otherwise,
are personal
politically,
aspects.
you not had a chance to look at it. I'm glad, because I would have been wondering, are you studying or just bothering about politics? So I'm glad to hear a no for an answer.
I haven't done any research.
But how's the COVID situation? I know that you're quite a composer. How's the music going? Are you composing a lot of music?
A little bit here and there. Earlier today, I made one little loop.
Really?
I might. You're
gonna post it on your SoundCloud. Is it meant to be released on your channel or what?
I don't
or is
have
it just
any
for
idea.
your treasury?
Whatever
You're
I
just
make,
gonna keep it for yourself.
I don't think I make the music. I think the music wants to be made by me, or it makes itself. So then if the inspiration is there to take it forward to completion and then put it up, I will do that.
What about poetry? Have you written any poem recently?
No, I have not written any poem. I have only written
what?
My many academic problems, which I have to resolve.
All right. And what about, which is your favorite 𝕭𝖆𝖎 these days? Anything that you can recite for us?
I cannot recite. I'm horrible at recitation. But
come on, show us one. Let's see how horrible you are.
No, it's gonna be really bad.
Sure, show me. I'll cut you in between if you're really bad. But I know that you like Pancham Swari, 15 beats. But anything that comes to the mind?
There was the Pancham Swari only. I can't. You see, I can't. My ucharan is pathetic.
You come back, I'm gonna, we're gonna have a boxing match. Francesca is saying hello. She's saying Satkardar. So that's nice. I mean, that's a beautiful composition. It goes kai ta 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 ke drigdi ta ke drigdi ta ke dha drigdi ta ke drigdi ta ke. Very ancient. I'm from the Amritsari Baj, Darbar Sahib composition. Some of the gurus have played it. Some of the great Rababis and Gursikhs have played it. Kai ta 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 ke drigdi ta ke dha drigdi ta ke drigdi ta ke dike na de ta ke drigdi ta de ta kai drigdi ta ke drigdi ta ke dike na dha drigdi ta ke drigdi ta ke dike na dha kai drigdi ta ke drigdi ta ke dike na dha drigdi ta ke drigdi ta ke dike na dha kai drigdi ta ke drigdi ta ke dike na dha drigdi ta ke drigdi ta ke dike na, and it goes on. A beautiful composition. I'm so glad that you even remembered as much as you did. But you also play that, no? You remember that?
Yeah.
सुना देना यार, इतनी कंजूसी मत कर बदतमीज लड़के.
I can't do Padhant to save my life.
Okay, well we'll sort that out. And a couple of other things I want to talk to you about is, one is waste, because I've been worried about the kind of waste we are producing, billions and billions of tons, over and over, relentlessly. The kind of mass production, which is again greed, so-called false ideas of shares and market value, etc., etc., and climate change. How are you? Let's look at. Of course, they are related, but how do you? Because if you are consuming earth, you're producing more than what you actually need to produce. You're abusing water, which is under the ground, which is not meant to be used now. It belongs to the future generations, but we are emptying that out. And how do you see? Let's start with waste management or waste production, and then climate change, if you can share your thoughts.
I think one thing on a personal level, I can't really say on a macroscopic scale because I haven't done much research. But on a personal level, I have noticed that if I buy more local, I have less packets to throw away. And then also on the economic front, I support the economy within the area. So if I buy, instead of buying a packet from the supermarket of salad, if I go to the farmer's market and buy salad and bring it back in my bag, in my jute bag or whatever, that waste of plastic is not there. There is no need to packet that product. There is a need to consume that product within its lifetime, which is reduced with respect to, as compared to those in the packets. But that is the price of convenience. Let's say that if I want a convenient thing, I will go for a packaged good, which will last me longer, so I don't need to have it today or tomorrow. I can have it 4 days from now, 5 days.
It's very interesting what you're talking about, to the idea of the vernacular and to the idea of local, in the sense that the distant you have to send, the further away you have to send, you not only have to prepare things that will hold on to it, that is, they are more and more, imperishable. The containers. Then there are the ingredients are also harmful. You're adding chemicals because if you're sending them far away, you need like you've seen with the Pfizer vaccine, you needed like tens of degrees below zero Fahrenheit just to store it. That means it cannot reach as much, and if you just want to reach that single vial, you need to have an entire paraphernalia to go along. I mean, to hold that. Otherwise, it's useless. It wouldn't have any effect. So what you're it's very interesting. What you're referring to is that if you consume locally, you're honoring the local, the vernacular. You're honoring, but then it is also the greed that says, "Oh, I have a business. I'm selling 50 samosas a day in my street, but if I can somehow make arrangements to send it to the next street, maybe I'll have my output would be, 100 samosas a day. But then, well, you know what? Let me put some chemical ingredients that they don't spoil easy, and let me make 500 other samosas which I can send to the city next door, the next town. And then
Yeah.
where do I set up? You make a franchise, and they say, well, you know what? Wonderful. Now I need to, get a better car. I want to, I can, I've tasted now money that comes. So I want to now raise my samosa production to 10,000 samosas a day. Then I say, well, I must have so many franchises around the world, so I must have 10,000 samosas a day. Then I'll say, well, will 10,000 cups of coffee a day. But then if I let local coffee makers to give their coffee, they say, no, I want to have my own brand, so I'm going to make and sell. That means you're denying local sellers, you're killing the local chains or local, the individual, the small business owners. So it's a chakravyuh. It's an entire cycle
Yeah.
ecosystem. It just goes bad. So yes, I mean that's a big problem. But how do you, I mean you guys are studying to be engineers and innovators and creators and inventors. Does it interest you that the future has to be has the future this coming generation, your generation has to address very much how to manage the waste? One, that it is not just about waste management. I see that we have to stop producing waste.
Yeah.
Management is okay. You'll start sending now their private enterprises, people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and others who are now the new age mafia being born. They will now control. They will own planets now in the near future. And they will start selling, maybe waste on Mars or onto the moon as well. And they will start charging. That's going to be a very big business. But then you're also emptying Earth out. You're also transporting Earth in a bad manner. Do you think, in terms of, is your generation, in your colleagues, your classmates, seniors and juniors, are you guys just going to be serving the production line of big corporate houses and industries, or you guys are also sort of worried about how to perhaps break the cycle, the way humanity is headed in a very, very, I mean, it's a nosedive right now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the narrative within university is company oriented. So you enter the production line, you enter the market of producers of goods, of commodities, of things which I think are not actually needed. They're not they're not what is needed right now. Right now, there are lots of problems we are facing as a people, as a biosphere, I would say, as a whole community of species on the planet. We are facing a lot of problems, and what I want to avoid is precisely becoming part of the problem, and rather focus on problem solving and thinking about first identifying every problem and then going about figuring out how to tackle each one by one individually. Unfortunately, I don't know of many people who are oriented in this manner. I think as you said, the taste of making it big is the dream that is sold to everybody, and I think it's very easy to be carried away by that wave. So I don't know how many people there are who identify the problem and then who actually think about what we need to do right now. Not what is possible, not what could have been done 30 years ago, but about what we have to do right now to make the situation better rather than making it worse. And we were talking about, you mentioned Amazon and the multinational, the corporations, and I would say it is a perfect example of them creating their own, or let's say them creating a demand for their own products over there. So through their functioning and large-scale production of goods, which are, I would say, unnecessary, we have a waste problem. And because we have a waste problem, thanks to their production, they are now going to create another product, another service, which is to throw away, the hypothesis of throwing away the waste elsewhere. So every single thing they do, I mean, I would say they should be doing that. They should not be doing that, but they should be managing the waste that they have produced, then sell themselves on their own costs, I would say.
But mostly people have been dumping things in the ocean. Now they're realizing that that's not the thing to do, because species
it's
that,
much worse.
Talking of waste and climate change, you mentioned about species. I mean, us as human beings, but how many species are dying each day? They're extinct.
We are dependent on,
and that
we are dependent
the life
on all
cycle,
the other species.
Life cycle is being, it's being destroyed. We could be next. This virus has shown deforestation, which is to do with waste management, more and more production. The kind of viruses that are coming, they're saying that there's so many in Brazil, South America, and other places there are. In Africa, there are scientists who are on the lookout for new kinds of viruses so that they can be caught and then studied, and maybe antidotes already prepared beforehand. So that's last question for the day. The fact that overall awareness is not there, but I know that you've been worried about that. Are you having second thoughts about pursuing a career in the industry eventually, once your education is done, or you're okay with doing something within that and then maybe trying to be the good factor in trying to finding solutions for how we manage the natural resources, how we use only as much, how we are judicious in consumption?
So to answer that, I would say, if I'm to consider the sector as it is, I don't want to be a part of it.
I see.
I want to be part of the changes that need to be made in the sector. So, for example, now there is the issue of all of the cars not all, but eventually all cars on the road being replaced by electric vehicles. That is a big issue of waste management as well. What are you going to do with all of those cars which have already been made? And why cannot the chassis be reutilized in some manner? So, and on top of that, you will produce all of those cars again.
No, but that's also part of the part of the industrial, the car industry mafia. They want you to, like my van, which has been lying dormant because it's done 15 years, and I cannot drive even when it is not a polluting car, because the industry wants me to buy a new car. Even if this car starts at the first flick and it's something that I like, I've maintained it well, I've never taken it to I've only taken it to the agency to have it serviced. But it's the syndicate where they want you to, to sell old cars, and they want to total them, recycle them, and they want you to buy. They want people to spend 100,000 to a few 100,000 rupees. Few $1,000 every year on a motor vehicle. Is that you're in a cycle? You don't lessen that cost. They want you to pay up. It's like paying up even to live. You're born, you start paying up for the right to live.
Yeah.
And the other aspect I want you to tell me about is that is actually battery or electric cars actually non-polluting? Because long time ago
No.
I heard that the battery, actual process of making a battery, it's a very, very corrosive thing to do.
It is. I mean, it is. Any production is energy intensive, and when it comes to batteries, the big thing is mining lithium and other rare earth materials. Mining and transportation. So you're going to mine in Bolivia, for example, where there was the military coup, or the US aided coup. In other places, Africa for sure, where mining for even things such as cell phones, for all electronic equipment, there are some metals that are required, some elements that are required, which do require a lot of mining in remote places of the earth, and then that comes with transportation of all of that bulk of large amounts of material, and that cannot, nobody's gonna walk with that material. It's gonna be on ships, on planes. So the whole process is polluting. The argument that is made is that for the life cycle of the product, the net pollution will be less. But that is not the solution, because you are anyways polluting. What we have to do is not pollute and try to work on being carbon negative. So there are some ways of filtering out hydrocarbons, and not hydrocarbon, but byproducts of combustion from the air, and that is one. I think Microsoft was trying to, and they had said that they would be carbon negative, not carbon neutral, so they would be extracting carbon from the atmosphere by, I don't know when, 2025 or 20, I don't know when they said they would, but that technology is there, but in the end, it all comes down to, and then there's one more thing when it comes to mining, is also the ethics of labor force, which is another big problem. There's just one problem after another
Bolivia,
problem.
mentioned about Bolivia, another tin, the kind of mafia that is like, it's crazy. It's just unbelievable. Yes, please continue.
So it's, I mean, for me, the electric car is not the solution. It is.
Is the bullock
should
cart?
Have been here.
Is bullock cart and horse carts and chariots the solution? Permanent solution? Is that where we'll be in the end anyway?
I think on a local level, the cycle works very well. You don't need. I mean, the bullock cart, you require the animal. You require space for all. Where, I mean, in rural areas, it could work very well, but there is I mean, I don't think people will adjust going back to how things were. Once you get used to, if I taste the sugar, I'll always miss. I mean, if I have a cake, and then all of a sudden I remove all of the sugar from the cake, I will have a bite thinking of how it used to be, and completely resent how it is.
It's like the draft at the back of the plane or a moving vehicle, no? You get sucked into it. You're always wanting to be, you want that sugar. That's what you want, that toe into, yes.
So I mean, definitely won't pollute as much as we are polluting now, but we won't produce as much as we are producing now. Then the question is whether people will be able to adapt to that, and if they will happily do so or not, because there is a lot of personal sacrifice that comes with it. If we decrease, I mean, for example, in India, electricity is mainly produced using coal still. If there is if we are to enact a policy where we put a cap on um, the maximum amount we can pollute for energy production, we will have to sacrifice not daylight hours but nightlight hours. So you wouldn't be able to be up right now.
Come on.
And would you be willing to sacrifice that?
Yeah,
I mean, I think you would. You would
I'm cool
definitely.
with paper and pen and syahi, and
Exactly.
I'm with a lamp. Absolutely, I'm willing to
Yeah.
do that.
But whether 1.3 billion people would be willing to do that or not is a completely different thing. So
And you're
there
just
are,
talking
I
about
mean,
India in that sense, yeah.
exactly. Because I was giving the coal example.
Yeah.
And it comes with, these things come with a cost. The cost is either you have a convenient product and then you have these other problems which surface, which are big problems, or you have a personal use convenience aspect and you avoid those other problems that are caused by a convenient service or product. So, for example, we can also take this into privacy, talking about the convenience of WhatsApp. There are lots of privacy concerns surrounding um, most of the social medias, but they're very convenient to use. Therefore, even if we know the information, okay, this is your information gets sent to third parties for advertising, blah blah blah. And if I don't like that, as a generic, I mean, if I really communicate this idea to someone who uses these services, they will say, okay, I don't think that's really good. But will they sacrifice the convenience of using that product for uh, for what they think is right or not? That is the big question, I think, and that is where a lot of the weight um, lies. If we are to look at it as a seesaw, if uh, if people collectively grew an awareness or cultivated a specific awareness and a set of actions based on that awareness, I think the scales could be tipped. But I think it's very difficult because this also ties into the whole QAnon thing, because a reasonable discourse is not a soundbite, it's not one line, it's not a slogan. It is books and books and books and books and books. So I don't think it's very realistic to assume that people collectively will do all of that personal homework and personal adventure. If we talk about ethics, if we talk about science, if we talk about um, politics, if we talk about philosophy or religious ideas or whatever, I think personal agency is something which is lacking, and which does not cause as well, but it also aggravates and lets problems go unaddressed, I would say.
Yeah. So I'm glad. Lastly, looking at in Italy, I'm seeing that there's a record 2,099 people have recovered, and deaths up 542 in Italy with the coronavirus. ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਬੇਟੇ ਕਿ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ we've had now several strains like the South African strain and the UK or whatever, London strain, whatever they call it. There's some new ones in America. I have a worry. I'm a little worried. India was not as infected or as impacted by the coronavirus in terms of population versus the number of the amount of spread and the number of deaths. I mean, look at America. They've done 500,000 people have died reportedly. Others, obviously, there will be more because there's several red states as during Trump's time, where the coronavirus was so politicized, they were not testing enough and they were not reporting enough. And, the Trump side, the Trumplicans or 𝕒𝕑𝕨 guys were not wanting to even acknowledge. There were some nurses who said that they just wouldn't believe some of the patients just before dying that it's a lie. This is not really coronavirus, something else. Even people who were dying were not believing. They were so fooled by the propaganda. I'm afraid that if we have an Indian strain, because it's not easily spread, that would be very deadly. So, Bannu, bada fikr hai, because I was talking to your cousin Gurjot, the Mr. Architect. He was telling that, even Shatabdi or flights, people are just sitting, next to each other. At times in the train, nobody's even wearing a mask and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
How do you, this is quite a situation, isn't it, about deaths? And what about domestic violence? I know that you went for the first time to a police station. You witnessed it was all reported in the news media. There was a big case in Turin. Would you briefly, without taking names of the people concerned, would you tell about your experience? What was it like?
It was a very jarring experience, I would say. It was an attempted murder by a 27-year-old guy who stabbed his ex.
Who's it? Albanian national, is it? Or Albanian Italian?
Yeah, it is unclear
okay.
which one of the two, but that is the guy. And the girl was a 20-year-old Greek student. So this was on the 21st of February at 8:30 p.m. And it's indescribable, I would say. I really don't know how one could reach a point where you would pull a knife on somebody, on anybody, but even more so somebody you know. And domestic violence was a big concern also for all of the lockdowns, because there are people who are in situations, people who are very toxic in terms of behavior, whether it be verbal or physical. And this was one of the many, let's say, one of the big points against lockdowns. If we want to also bring in the coronavirus aspect, which you brought in, I think the two go hand in hand, along with also mental health. Which, if you combine all three, if for example, we aren't made to stay inside the house, in between the four walls, all of the time, every day, for months and months and months, so that in itself is already taxing, is draining mentally and physically. So, in my example, I used to go to the gym. That was part of my well-being routine, let's say. And once it all got shut down, I sit here and my back starts cracking, all of these things. And that's not a nice thing to think about. That's not a nice thing to feel. If we are to consider people who are in company which is harmful, bringing in the domestic violence aspect, that is even worse because you don't have any other option but to stay there. And it is a very unfortunate situation. I don't know what is being done about it. I don't know. I mean, as far as I know, nothing is being done about it.
Yeah.
You know, people aren't even, at least in Europe, yes, the stipends and the salaries are being paid to a certain extent of people who are out of jobs, but elsewhere in America, for example, and probably other places as well, even if the basic provisions aren't made, nobody will even think about your actual well-being when it comes to surviving a pandemic. You know.
And how was it like? I mean, you were just sitting outside the window, you heard noise, or how did you get to know about? Because it was, this guy was, the stabbing happened, attempted murder happened outside, is it? Or was it inside?
Yeah, it was right in front of the building. So I was sitting here, and all of a sudden I hear screams.
I see.
And then I looked out and I went to the balcony, and then I saw that this guy was repeatedly striking.
So you actually got to see him actually stab in front of you?
I didn't see the knife because I'm on the fifth floor.
No, of course, yeah. But you saw him, the hand
Yeah,
gesture,
I saw the
movement
whole
attack, the assault, okay, or the attempted murder, okay. And then you, I was so glad that you actually called the cops at the same time. Your first reaction was
immediately. Yeah.
Okay. And what did the cops say? Were they already aware, about the attack which was happening on that 20-year-old girl? Or
no, I was
the first one to inform?
Responder, I would say.
Oh, I see. You were the first one to respond. I appreciate that very much. And then with the phone, with the cops, and you went down as well?
Yeah.
And by that time, there were other people also who were stopped. Did anybody try to stop him, or what was...
So what happened was, as I saw the scene unfold, there was one person on the opposite side of the square who was approaching, and that guy was on a bicycle, so he made it there in time. What was peculiar was the guy, the assailant stopped as soon as people came close.
I see.
He went to what I think was a fountain, because there's a water fountain on the street. Washed his hands and then came back. So I would say, there is not even that shrivel of
remorse,
of even
or regret, or sadness.
Which even makes you want to run away. That makes you think, oh, I did a bad thing, and I have to save myself. But no, he was just there looking at this, at the poor girl who was bleeding on the floor. Which is very, 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 that was very strange to me, because there was absolutely no remorse on his face, and he was just there waiting to be arrested.
Was he drunk or something? Did they
No,
report?
No, he was in his senses.
Wow, it's amazing. I'm so sorry that you had to witness that, but that's life. And how was the experience at the police station? Were they respectful and they were kind?
Yeah, everything was good.
How long did it take at the police station where you were invited to?
It was about a 20-minute wait and a 30-minute conversation.
And so they took your witness account all that you saw, etc., etc. And
Yeah.
okay. No, that's great service, Bete, that you actually called the cops and the ambulance would have therefore come as well. So the above that, for me, I don't care about catching that idiot who and that attempted
Yeah.
murderer. I am so glad that your call to the cops would have immediately triggered the ambulance to the scene. And
Yeah.
I take this chance to thank you and appreciate your quick thinking, your snap
Only doing my
thinking.
duty. Yeah.
Shabash. And lastly, I didn't realize that. I thought that we will end on that note. I just saw that Mario Draghi, who's your prime minister, new prime minister, the ANSA is reporting that Italy creates Ministry for Ecological Transition. And the news reads on the 26th of, it's a February 26th, released that Premier Mario Draghi's cabinet on Friday created a new ministry, the Ministry for Ecological Transition. The entire establishment five-star movement M5S pushed hard for the creation of the ministry, tasked with engineering the transition towards making the Italian economy environmentally sustainable during talks on the formation of Draghi's broadly backed new executive. It is a promise we made the citizens to render the country's industrial policy in sync with the European Green New Deal, said Agriculture Minister and the M5S lawmaker Stefano Patuanelli. He said that many of the responsibilities for energy policy that previously belonged to the Industry Ministry had been transferred to the new ministry. The Minister for Ecological Transition is Roberto Cingolani, one of the 8 non-political technocrats in Draghi's 23-strong cabinet. Another M5S bigwig, Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio, hailed the move as an important result for the country. Quote, ecological transition does not just mean the environment and green issues, end quote, Di Maio said via Facebook. Quote, we will totally revise the concept of labor and business, and we will open an innovative, modern road that will lead us to being much more competitive. End quote. Di Maio said the transition will also deliver new jobs. So this is in sync with what, for example, Donald, our friend, quote unquote friend, the new president of the United States talking about the green, that the green, green energy, will bring in new jobs. How do you see, how is this being, what do you think? Is this a good way to, good way ahead? That's a big first step, isn't it?
It is the first step.
But it's a big first step, I would say.
It's a big first step, but it is the first step. I think it's, we should be humble by celebrating the fact that it is within the scope of happening, but it's not the finish line, it's the starting line.
Yes,
it's not the finish line.
Yeah.
And also to correct a little bit, the Green New Deal was abandoned by Biden, I think, if I'm not mistaken now.
In America?
Yeah.
Well, it was never passed as such, but the thing is that they're talking about the European Green New Deal.
Yeah.
They're in sync with that. We're not talking about America here. It's just a European, Italian, European. It's they're calling it. I mean, maybe with the Democrats now winning, eventually it'll, Joe Biden's, the way he's doing with this, I think he's going to be in the front seat now for perhaps a second term. And I think if Trump comes again, which seems likely, unless he is in a jumpsuit in the next couple of years, once the cases, law and law of averages catches up with him. But I think Biden might win again if he's fit enough. But I think they might get a chance to bring in some sort of a green deal if they have enough majority, because I'm suspicious, or I'm hoping that with the maybe in 2021 they are going to be addressing the gerrymandering. I think it's a 10-year cycle or something, that they had been very creative in making sure that Republicans who do not have enough votes nationally were actually controlling more of the legislature, etc., in the states, and therefore controlling, therefore calling the shots. But I think some sanity might prevail on the, thanks to the harakiri attempt of some of the Republican lawmakers and supporters. They might have something parallel to the Green New Deal now that they're back into the Paris Climate Accord, etc. But I hope good sense prevails. What time is it now? It's like 12:30, midnight 30 now for you?
It's 22 minutes to 1. Yeah.
Okay, to be precise. Francesca says, must have been traumatic to witness this. How could you sleep after you saw this? Good job, you saved a life. That's Francesca. That's compliment.
I didn't sleep.
You did not.
I did not sleep. I've been sleeping for more or less 2-3 hours for a week now.
Gosh. Gosh. That's and Ramanjeet, have you been in touch with her? I told you guys to be, but I know you've been busy with your papers
Guilty
and
as
all
charged.
that. Guilty as charged. Ramanjeet is saying, tremendously insightful session, Amar. Best wishes for your book and other endeavors. 𝕭𝕬𝕐.
My book?
Book? I
Which
don't
book?
know. Book, maybe your papers. Maybe well, let's say the book that you're supposed to study instead of chatting with your pops. So, well, that's one thing. I mean, if you mess up with your, with your class, I cannot, at least, I mean, I'm the guy who cannot blame you. You'll say, well,
Yeah.
excuse me, I was studying and you knocked on the door. I mean, knocked on the screen. I think that's a new expression, isn't it? Knock on the screen. Knock, knock, knock.
Yeah, it's like having a glass door. A
All right.
window. I mean, you have windows, no? So,
Yeah, well, I have apples.
okay.
I
We're all
throw at the
Newtonian
windows.
now. Yeah.
All right, Mr. And I'm looking forward to see you soon.
You too.
I actually was, I didn't tell you, I was supposed to go to Pathankot. Dr. Narendra Kaur is hosting a seminar, and I was supposed to give the keynote. And, but then, the whole nakhra about that I knew that I will have to fly in the front cabin, and they don't have a budget for that. So I was actually wary about traveling on the road for 8-10 hours, because I don't want to come and then again quarantine with you coming and your mom and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to be doing on the 13th itself via whatever, I mean, through cyberspace. And so I'll be here. I'll be giving my keynote address and so on and so forth from here. And I'll come to therefore, I'll be at the airport to wait for you when you land.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, you better. All right. I hope people. Lucky Singh says an insightful session. That was very kind. Oh, for your paper, yes, she's. I think it was a misprint. Best wishes for your paper and other endeavors. Ramanjeet has corrected that. Lucky Singh says, where are you based, Baldeep Paji? Oh, yaar, I'm based in your heart. दस्तक करके तो देख असी झट बाहर आ जाएंगे इदा. So Amar, should I 2022 is coming. I mean, do you want me to get into politics again? Shall I now stand up and win the Sultanpur Lodi seat? Because this guy has been very, very upsetting. I'm very sad about that, because I gave him 2 chances. I mean, he won because of my thing. You're okay with if I fought elections again, or are you going to be freaked out?
I don't know. I think it depends. We have to first, I would say, really focus on what the objective is, on which are the most important objectives that there are for you as a person. And then on the basis of that, we can come to a decision by weighing the pros and cons and saying, okay, which direction do we go? Do we go more in a grassroots activist way, or a conventional politics way, or which way? Because you could you could go there and say all of the right things, but if the people aren't able to, if the people aren't responsive to those things through lack of awareness, it's no use. I would say. I think there has to be a lot of pressure put by the people onto the government, rather than by the government onto the people, because they are. I mean, they are government workers. It's like the president gets or whichever seat which gets won. It's like glorified. Like as if it's some sort of monarchy, but no. That guy's working for us, the citizens, or for you, the citizens. But that dynamic is completely skewed, I would say. So that needs to.
Yeah, but you see, there were like I have wanted to deliver. I'm from the non-profit sector, but by choice, right? I gave up a career, etc., and I've barely given you guys time as well. I work like a mad felon. 10 years ago, 9 years ago, I orchestrated the defeat of a local MLA who had turned greedy and wanted to kill the project, and was doing sort of harm to the Guru's heritage, which is Punjab's heritage, which is Indic heritage, which is world heritage, both tangible and intangible. Last elections I effected by way of Sarvat Khalsa, which I curated 8th of February 2015 when I proposed, and my students, some of them were in the thick of it, and I curated it all. And then it was politicized, it was turned into a political rally by Simranjit Maan and Baba Moham Singh and UAD and 𝕭𝕨 Akali-Dal Amritsar and so on and so forth. It's like I hunted and kept, hyenas, I let the hyenas take the shikar. Both times I hunted, they were my hunts. But the second time I let hyenas actually form, who were not my bandwagon or not part of my, I was not part of the bandwagon either, but nobody came along, so I let the shikar being taken. But this time I think I've tried now twice, 3 is my limit. I'm thinking of playing the shikar and, not letting, putting together a few fantastic boys and girls, a small boys and a girls club, who are capable scouting for some of the finest souls in Punjab and begging of them to come on board and to do that we need to take charge. Because grassroots, yes, but the arrogance of these people is dangar chari deya, we graze a lot of cattle, so you also are grassroots, so go on grazing cattle. And that's the attitude these people have. They don't worry about, you've seen how even my, the entire 33 5 years work has been destroyed, which is a crime against humanity. What is worse than that? It's like next is stabbing the Guru itself. It is worse than they cry over few pannas, few angs of Guru Granth Sahib being torn. A Guru Granth Sahib's roop, you can do a Sukhasan or a 𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒 or 𝕒𝕒𝕒, and you can get a new sarup. But the intangible assets which I have been trying to recover and curate, if they die, they cannot be brought back. So I don't think there is any hope. Look at the Gurdwara reform movement the second Gurdwara reform movement that I called. There's no hope unless we do that, because people who have no idea about what dharam is, what dharam, not as a religion, But Sant ka marg dharm ki paudi ko vadbhagi paiya. It is a rare vadbhag one who is who engages with the saintly one and the steps of dharma, of dharmic living. That is we need those fortunate ones to come into the thing. So anyway, as a thinker, as a political philosopher thinker, whatever roles that I have been playing and understanding, I'm sort of worried. Anyway, it's like a warning to you already, like a thing that don't be too surprised if you find me dusted or dusty, or etc. Dusty and dusted both, but not done. Anyway, was that too venomous a talk, a thought?
No,
At
no.
the end, or do you think
Realistic. Realistic.
Okay.
Which is why we need to plan. Otherwise, it's useless. I would say there's because that's also one point of debate, is whether, let's say if I have a patient, I'm a doctor and I have a patient. The patient is unable to take the whole medicine.
You and a doctor?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a hypothesis.
Okay.
This is a dream world.
Okay.
And I am a doctor in this dream world. I've passed all my exams. I am a doctor. And my patient is unwell and is not in a sustainable situation. I have a medicine, and for the patient to become sustainable, for that organism of the patient to become sustainable, they need the whole medicine. Now, if the patient cannot digest the whole medicine, is it the best thing for me to do? The best thing for me to do, one would say, is to give it anyways, to force feed. But then half of the medicine goes wasted, and then I have no medicine anymore. So do I give only half? How much do I give? Do I give only the amount that the patient can take when it is for that duration, or do I give it whole anyways? So that is, I think, a more calculated approach is much more effective, in the sense that we don't waste. We were talking about waste. If we overdo, it is also wastage.
True that.
So I think we need to think about how to go about things the most efficient possible. Because I would say, anyways, there's no point in playing the short game.
No. There's no short games. Yeah, Pop's a
Yeah.
marathon runner who can
Yeah.
sprint in between when need be.
Yeah. So we calculate that.
Leonardo, Amartyan Singh, you agreed
I've done my
to.
time.
Pardon?
I've done my time.
You've done it. No, but I'm just saying that you agreed to go live streaming with me, and we've gone in the past for ice creams and all the naughty things, for playing football and plenty of stuff. But this time we ventured into the cyberspace, our debut in that sense. I hope we continue our chit chat.
Some light
I want
discussion.
to do a series with you, and also with your brother, big brother, Harital. Maybe three of us can look at things, news, and discuss about that. It would be fun to do that.
Yeah,
Would
sure.
that be?
Sounds good.
And yeah, and thank you so much, and I hope you
Thank you.
rest well, and happy music making. I hope you finish your composition. And when you're free, some free time, open up your books too. Only when you're free.
On Mondays, that's all of my free time.
Okay. Yes, it's a weekend end of the weekend, almost there.
When we start.
Well, actually,
semester.
it's done. It's your Monday. Your Monday's already begun in that sense. Yeah.
No, it's
Sunday. Oh, that's true. Where am I?
I think you are the one who needs
yo,
some
Madan
sleep.
Taoji is better today. I have to, sort of last that session as well.
You should get some sleep in between.
Well, I hope to.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
जी नहीं कर रहा वैसे मेरा क्या पाबंद करिए मतलब we you know that and I know that we can both go on chatting and it'll be 7 o'clock in the evening
We can
without
go for
a
a week
blink,
straight.
without a yawn.
Yeah.
जिन्ना चिर पानी है खाली हो गया गिलास तामी इस बार चाह
Pani is an idea. The idea of pani.
Pani is an idea. Yes, that's a good one. पानी दा ख्याल है ख्याल ना होवे तो ख्वाब है all the best and I wish you a very good Sunday and I'll see you tomorrow.
You too.
You too. We're chatting. We're always pinging and pinging ponging. Satkartar. Varji ka khalsa. Varji ka fateh. Very good night. Khuda Hafiz everyone. You want to say bye-bye to everybody? You're welcome to say.
Good night and good day, good evening, good whatever, good everything. Good everything. 𝕒𝕑𝑒
Okay. My CPU is like dead. I've pressed it now for like 10 seconds. I don't know when it'll shut.